I love people,
Yeah.
and I love interacting with people. And helping people. I have a client right now who is 90.
Wow.
And buying a
and
house.
and he's buying a house.
That's
And
awesome.
he's just precious. I love him. He lives down the street from me. I go visit with him.
That's awesome. Welcome to Real Estate Success Partner. We're your hosts, Devin, Dubuc,
David, Nguyen.
and we're here to talk about how to have great success in every market. David, brother, amazing guest again, man. You just keep bringing back awesome people. Who did you bring with us today?
The awesome Michele Evans from Louisiana. What's
Let's
up,
go.
Michele?
Welcome. Glad to have you here today, Michele.
Thank you.
So, Louisiana, what part of Louisiana are you from?
West Monroe.
West Monroe. And David and I, we know who you are, but our people don't know who you are. Were you born and raised in Monroe? Is that where you come from originally?
Yes, West Monroe. And we're in the top of the boot.
Top of the boot to you. I love it. So West Monroe, you were born and raised there. And tell us a little bit about that. Growing up, did you just always have aspiration of being in real estate?
No, funny question. I worked at a car lot.
Okay.
And my boss went into real estate.
There you go.
And so he talked me into going with him.
I love it.
And that's that.
There it is. So working in car sales, were you in the sales side or were you on a different part of the Finance, yeah. Well, that's the smart place to be. If anybody knows the car business, you know that the finance department is where you want to be. You don't have to spend all that time out there on the pavement. There's a little bit more money to be made, and that's probably where you establish great negotiation skills and how to understand contracts, which is a big part of what realtors do. And I don't think people really understand all the paperwork that goes into this thing that we do. But you've got to have a great realtor who truly understands that, and you were able to earn that understanding of contracts before you got into this industry.
Right.
Yeah.
And when I got into the industry, though, we only had 2-page contracts. Now we have 10-page contracts.
Tell them how long you've been in the industry, Michele.
Yeah. When'd you get in this crazy thing? How long have you been doing this business?
Do I have to? Since I was 12. 30 years.
30
She's
years
a vet.
in. Yeah.
A vet. A true vet.
Yeah, I'm 21 years in. So, you got me. You got me by a few years there. That's awesome. Well, you don't look it. I would have never. So, yeah, did you start at 12? Is that?
I did.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So you start at 12. How do you start at 12? How does that work?
Well, okay. I didn't start at 12.
Yes, you did. We're going to go ahead and we're sticking with it. So you start at 12, and what's that look like? Did you just jump in, start closing, a ton of units right out of the starting gate, day number one?
Actually, the first company was just a buyer's agency.
Okay.
That I went to. And so we didn't list anything. We only worked with buyers. And then, we're in a small town. It worked, but we soon found that we needed listings too.
Yeah.
To make phones ring. So, I just jumped in feet first.
That's cool. So you jump in and you go in there with your mentor, right? Somebody else that you respected from your previous industry. And how long did that work? Are you guys still working together 30 years later?
He is actually an appraiser now. So he's still in the industry, but
That's awesome.
We don't work, in the same office anymore.
Yeah. So you guys get started together, and is it a big name company? Do you guys go to kind of a smaller private brokerage?
No, it was just a small mom and pop's brokerage. Now I'm at Keller Williams, so I am at a bigger brokerage.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And we'll talk a little bit about the differences between those two because I think it's important for people to understand what Keller provides. We know a little bit about Keller, and we know that they've got some really great training opportunities, and they definitely have a wonderful name in this industry. Gary Keller, literally wrote the book on real estate. So,
Yes.
literally, by the way, guys,
The Millionaire Agent.
that's it. If you're not familiar with it and you're in this industry, you should pick it up and give it a read because it's fantastic, right? It's absolutely fantastic. So
Yeah, call me. I can get you one.
I'd love it. I'd love it. Actually, what's funny is one of our loan originators that works with Clint Ritchie, his mother is actually in the book. If you look it up, you'll see somebody with the name Ritchie. And so amazing as it is, he has several hundred copies in a storage facility. And you probably know what that's about, but a lot of people don't realize this. When Gary wrote the book, one of the smart things that he did is he wanted to be a #1 published author. So back in the day, you had to buy a certain amount of books to represent his agency so he could get pushed up to the #1 list. And that was a big part of his marketing strategy.
Yeah, he's pretty amazing.
So we go from a mom and pop shop, and you're just getting into this thing. And what was it about realty that kind of kept you there? Because obviously you came from one industry to the next. Here you are, 30 years in. What was it? Right? What was that moment that made you say, "This is the industry I've got to represent"? Right? This is why I want to do this.
So there were several different reasons. One was I had a new baby, and he knows how to show houses, believe me. He knows what wasted space is.
Born to the business.
And I love people, and I love interacting with people. And helping people. I have a client right now who is 90.
Wow.
And buying a house.
And he's buying a house.
That's awesome.
He's just precious. I love him. He lives down the street from me. I go visit with him.
That's awesome. It's almost like family, right?
It is. Well, most, yes.
Yeah, that's amazing. So yeah, most. I'm glad that you threw that in there. We know they're not all those. We want them all to be awesome. They're not all
friendly.
So what's Monroe look like? Obviously you've been representing the city for 30 years. You were born and raised there, right? What is those, what does it look like? What is the transition from, where it is today in comparison to where it was when you first got started?
It's grown a lot. It's grown a lot out rural, away from town. It's a small town. It's a great town to be raised in. We're all pretty safe here.
Yeah.
And, we have lunatics just like everybody else.
You're talking to two of them right now.
And yeah, I might be looking in the mirror. I'm not sure.
I love it. I love it.
But, yeah, it's just a cool place. It's small. But we've got a lot of good food.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, and let's talk about that a little bit. What is your market typically built up of? Are you seeing people coming from outside territory moving into, Monroe, or is it mainly, people that have been there for years and years and just, they're moving up or moving around town? How's that look?
I would say it's a good mixture of both.
Yeah.
In COVID, when people were at home, they either decided their house wasn't big enough or they didn't really like their partner as much as they thought. So they needed their own room.
Go figure.
Yeah. So, or they didn't like their kids as much as they thought they did,
We need more space. Let's get those kids on the other side of the house.
Yeah. So, there was a lot of, lots and lots of in town moving around.
Right.
We do have a lot of people coming here from Texas and California. It changes all the time. Sometimes it's Chicago, sometimes it's California,
Yeah.
so.
So it's ever growing. There's always people out there looking to purchase, and we know they can come to you because you know it well. You've been there. You're cut from the cloth, so to speak, and as a result of that, you can provide a great experience because you kind of know where people want to be, right?
Right. And it just like I can tell you where everything is in this town
Yeah, I'll bet.
for
Well,
about a 30-mile radius.
there you go. Well, our guest knows, our podcast is called Real Estate Success Partners, Michelle, and you're having some good success even in this market. One of the questions we get asked all the time is, how you generate your leads? Because we know Keller Williams really doesn't give them.
No, and I do a lot of repeat business.
Yeah.
I do a lot of referral business.
Right.
And I've been working with a good amount of investors lately.
Yeah, we hear that the investors are loving the market right now.
And the rates are creeping down, so I'm hoping that we fix to start shaking a little bit.
Yeah, and let's talk about that a little bit because I think the rates get a bad rap, right? Everybody thinks, hey, rates creep up to 7%, and man, this is a terrible time to buy a home. But you probably have a little bit of knowledge in this industry. What have rates been like traditionally over the last 3 decades? Is 7% a terrible rate, or is that maybe a pretty good interest rate based on historical times?
It is. I think when in the 90s, it was 10, 9.5.
Hold on. I think we had did you say 10, 9.5?
I did.
Oh, wow. Oh, well, that's wild. And 7% doesn't look so good, huh?
Yeah, right. It's all these baby boomers or millenniums, whatever, was buying these houses at 2 and 3%. So they're, they got a sticker shock.
They did 100%. Well, let's talk about that. You say 10, 9.5 in the 90s. I'm pretty confident they were higher than that at other points in time. What's the highest you've ever seen rates on average?
Well, probably that is when I started paying attention. But I do know that I've talked to some of my older clients, and they bought houses at 18%. So
18%, right? 18%. So let's talk about that because, there's a lot of things going on right now, and everybody wants to pinpoint the fact that interest rates on homes have crept up to the 7 because we lived in fantasy land at 3.25 and 4.5 and, 2s. And I think, man, we may have even sold some stuff at 199 at one point in time, which we knew because from our side of the business, we knew this was going to be short-lived. The consumers started thinking this is where it should be, but credit cards, average rate right now is in the 20s.
28%.
28%. 28%. So people are thinking about, man, this is a terrible time to buy a house. But man, what about that average consumer out there with the $96,000 in consumer debt? I don't know if you knew this, but the average homeowner in America today, and of course this is across the United States, has $286,000 in equity. Actually, I think it's $298,000. It's $298,000 in equity and $96,000 in consumer debt. And a big part of that consumer debt is made up of what?
Credit cards.
21 to 28% credit cards, which are compound interest daily. With mortgage rates at 7% and all that equity, what a lot of people should be thinking about, and they're not, is how could I take the equity out of the home that I have today, utilize it to find a home that I actually want, pay off the credit card debts that are absolutely astronomical, and then turn around and purchase a home and save money. Money. People are not thinking about this from the right perspective. And at the end of the day, Michelle knows at points in her career, 9.5, 10% was just the everyday interest rate. And we've got a lot of people on the sideline that think 7 is terrible. But guess who's not? What did she say? She said investors are buying. Why do you think investors are buying? Last time I looked, we're not negotiating over the price limit on most homes. Most homes are either selling at ask and sometimes even below ask. And investors realize if I don't have to pay more for the home, I pay a slightly higher interest rate. Whenever the rates go down, what's going to happen? I'll refinance. I'll refinance, get an improved position, but I bought the house cheaper than everybody else, and I've been gaining equity on a property that's gaining 3 to 5% in equity every single year on average, right? And I think this is the problem with our industry today. A lot of people aren't thinking about this stuff, and they've got this freezing halt. And the reality of the situation is they need to be focused on, man, how can I get in the market before the rates go down? Because what we know is this. The economists are saying that for every 1% rates go down, 1 million borrowers come back to the market. Guess what?
Right. And prices go up.
And prices go up. You said it before I could. And prices go up, right? And what's crazy about that is there's less than 700,000 homes in the inventory in the United States today. So
we have no inventory.
There's no inventory. There's no inventory. It's insane. So what's the average day that a home sits on market in Monroe right now?
Between 90 and 120, just depends on the price.
Depending on the property. And the national average is not that. It's actually still 45 to 60 is what it's sitting on the market right now, right? So we know 90 to 120, that's a pretty average market. That's pretty standard. But when 45 to 60 is the national average and we've got low inventory, we're actually in a situation where this is a buyer's market. It is not a seller's market. This is a buyer's market right now. So buyers should be taking advantage of this. And the investors, boy, are they doing it right now. In fact, David, how many of your loans are made up of investors today?
A lot, probably about 30%.
30%, because they know a good thing when they see it. And, Barbara from the Shark Tank just spoke on this. And it was funny. We were already talking about it. And I was like, amen, right? Finally, a voice of reason from people, somebody that people actually take advice from. One of the things that we know, Michelle, is a lot of people are taking advice from the wrong people right now. They're going out there, they're listening to the media, they're listening to a lot of the social media. These are people that don't have 3 decades in this industry, don't have 2 decades in this industry, that are making decisions based off of non-factual data. And unfortunately, people are falling into the trap of thinking this is a terrible time to buy. And as a result of that, we're seeing this market stale for the first time in a long time, right?
I say all the time, I don't really ask, but I say all the time, please don't give advice about something you know nothing about.
Well, I'll tell you what, our mentor says the same thing, and I love it. He brought this to our attention. It's so often that people are taking advice from an unqualified person. Somebody lobs a question out on Facebook, 30 people jump in to answer it, and the problem is, we don't know what the qualification is of the 30 people that are answering those questions, right?
Right.
And if we're not taking the time to get to know who they are and what their education in that topic is, we're taking advice from 30 of the wrong people, or 300 of the wrong people, or 3,000 of the wrong people, right? You need to be asking the industry experts, right? Because people that are in this industry are going to tell you how it is because they know. We've been doing this for a long time and we know what's right and what's not. And we're not saying everybody needs to buy a house right now. If you're not in the market to buy a home, don't buy a home. It doesn't make sense. But if you don't like where you live, or you're in an apartment and you're gaining no equity, right? You're just spending money every month to pay somebody else equity, right? Guess what? It's probably not in a bad interest. If you plan to live in that area for a long period of time, maybe you need to be looking at buying a house right now.
I know you would be surprised. I see people all the time that's been renting for 30 years. I'm like, why?
Yeah, it's wild. Well, I'll tell you what, and if you are thinking about buying a house, I think if you're in the Monroe area, you need to call Michelle.
Absolutely.
Because she knows
house.
Yeah, she knows a thing or two about real estate, and she also knows a thing or two about Monroe, because as I said earlier, she's cut from the cloth. You've been there for a long time. So, which is awesome. I think when you want to be represented and represented well, you need somebody that knows the area, right? That knows the city, that knows the people, that knows the places, that knows where you need to be. So, well, tell us a little bit about, your journey in this industry. We always like to ask a great question. David, I'm going to let you throw it out there, brother. What's a question we like to ask our guests?
Oh, this is a good one, Michelle. You ready?
Uh,
In your 30 career as a realtor, what's the one achievement or moment that you're most proud of? You got a long history to pick from, but I only want one.
you just want one?
That's it.
Yeah.
What's the one that makes you stand out that you
We-
hold dearly?
Yeah, we always like to say, what's the one moment that you look back on and you go, man, I love this industry and I love this because of this one thing.
Or
right?
I did this
That's
changed
right.
this
Changed
this
me.
moment changed me, and this
Changed
is why
me.
I do what I do.
Yep.
Well, I'm gonna have to say it's actually my coworkers.
Yeah.
Um, they're all, I mean, we're all on the same page and we all help each other and we're not in competition, and because there's plenty of business out there
Your
for
family.
everybody. So I'm gonna have to say Keller Williams was my best move ever.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. We'll talk about that a little bit. Why is Keller Williams a great choice, right? If people are out there looking for, hey, I need
A home, or
a home. I want to find the right agency. What is it that makes Keller Williams so special? We named off a couple things, but we're from the outside looking in. You're inside looking out. You know what it looks like. What is it about Keller Williams that you love?
Well, their values are God, family, then work.
Yeah.
And I think that's very important.
Yeah.
Then they want everybody to have a win-win situation,
That's awesome.
because if one if the seller's not happy and the buyer is, that's not fair. And if the buyer's not happy and the seller is, that's not fair either.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
And all business is not fair, but you need to make it as much as you can.
Yeah. Well, and pairing up with, other people that are like-hearted, like-minded, so important, right? And you said it first, it's the people that you work with. That's what makes it so special, because when you go to work and you're centered around the people that you do business with, it feels like home.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty awesome.
We have a pretty neat atmosphere.
Yeah. Well, and when you feel like you're at home, how do those customers feel, or those borrowers or those homeowners, when they're walking through that experience of purchasing with you, right? You're able to lead them well because you're happy where you are in your life, and you're able to go out there and you're able to represent them, right? With passion. And I think that's why you get those repeat customers, which is why you're still creating business in a market where a lot of people are having struggles,
Well, there's a saying that people are always going to remember how you treated them.
Yeah.
Always.
That's right.
So, I just think that's very important, and I like all the values that Gary put out there.
I love that. I love that. So one thing we like to touch on is family. And I know you mentioned, a lot of this centers around, your son, as far as when you got into the industry. Talk a little bit about that. You've been a realtor and a mom at the same time. Tell us what that looks like.
Well, we had a lot of movies in the truck and a lot of McDonald's.
I love
But
it. You should get him a pair of those new Crocs that just came out for Christmas as a reminder of the childhood, right? They've got McDonald's Crocs. They just came out.
Oh my gosh. That's too funny.
They're going fast. You better get them ordered. But
in all seriousness though, he now he's in concrete now.
Yeah.
And he gets out there hands on, but it taught him a lot of responsibility and to be self-motivated.
Yeah.
And have a great work ethic.
That's right.
He knew that even when we didn't feel our best, we still had to get up and go show a house. You know?
That's awesome. Well, and that's one of the reasons I like to talk about that, because a lot of people don't realize, when we talk about success, we're not just talking about the monetary value. It's also the success of the people that we serve, but it's the success of the people we have at home, right?
Right.
And here you are, doing what it takes to take care of your little guy until he's a big guy, and out there living himself. But because he saw the ethic that you put forth in what you did every day, it's created who he is today, and it's given him drive to get out there and do the things that he does to create success as well, right?
Right. And he takes he's got 3 kids, and one of them is big enough to help him, and he takes him and he takes the other 2 on the job too. I mean,
That's
they
awesome.
just, he's teaching them.
He
So
is 100%. 100%. Let me tell you something. You look back at that, and you still spent time with him. He was there with you, even if it was for work. He remembers you being there, to the point where now he's got his own children, and he's doing the same thing. He's getting them up and taking them to work, and that's quality time, whether people realize that or not. Just having that time next to your kids, being there with them, and teaching them hard work and dedication. You did some great things there, and you should be proud of yourself, for showing him that work ethic and that drive and that determination, because that's part of what's helped create his success with his family as well.
right.
Yeah. Well, good stuff. Well, as much as we'd love to run these things all day, we've got to call these at end at some point in time. And we know that you've got things to get out there and do as well. We want you to stay successful with your business. Is there anything that we didn't ask you today that we should have?
I don't think so.
All right.
I think you guys asked all the right questions.
I love it. I love it. Well, if the people out there are looking to buy a home in Monroe, and they want somebody that's got 30 years in that location and know that they're going to be led well, how do they get in front of you, Michele? How do the folks out there find you?
They can call me at 318-355-8698 or shoot me a email. That's m.evans.broker@gmail.com.
There it is, guys. There it is. And if you're watching this video, that just popped up on the screen. So rewind it back, write it down, and make sure you call Michele, because she's going to take great care of you. We promise you that. That's what we always like to bring, great people on this show, people that care, people that have been in this industry, that know how to make success happen. And that's exactly who Michele is. So thank you so much for joining us today. We truly appreciate you being here. It's been an honor to get to know you a little bit more. David, anything you'd like to say before we call it a day?
Yeah, if you're looking for a house in Monroe, Louisiana, there's only one person I call, the hardest working woman in real estate, Michele Evans. She'll take care of you. She will take care of you.
I love it. I love it. So give her a call. I don't hear that phone ringing yet. Let's make it happen.
Call me.
Call it. Well, it might be because we made you put it on Do Not Disturb. So.
Right. Well, that's why I can't hear it.
That's it. As soon as we finish this thing up, don't forget to put it back on, because we know it's going to be buzzing. So, well, Michele. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I said, thanks for the reminder. My text has been going off. I hope it didn't mess anything up.
No worries. We are all good on our end. So again, Michele, thank you so much for joining us. We're your real estate success partners. I'm Devin Dubuc.
I'm David Nguyen.
And if you want to check us out, come on over to the realestatesuccesspartner.com, and that'll get you to all of our different channels. We also post these things on all the major podcast networks, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, all the big ones. We're also over on YouTube, and we'd love it if you come find us there. And again, you can link us with the Dubuc team. Again, we're the Dubuc team on Facebook and YouTube. We appreciate the support. And if you'd like to be a guest on the show, make a comment down below. We'd love to have you on too. So again, thanks for your time. Until the next one, we'll see you then.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.